Welcome back to Grifter or Gifted, the show where we ask, well, you know the question.
Yeah, the age-old question, can you really separate the person from their work?
Exactly.
It's a tough one.
It is. And today, we're diving deep into the world of Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist who has kind of taken the wellness world by storm.
He really has. What's fascinating about him is how he's been able to translate complex scientific research into, like, bite-sized pieces that anyone can actually understand and use.
Yeah, and he's got this incredibly popular podcast, Huberman Lab, books, a massive social media following.
He's everywhere these days.
He is everywhere. But as with anyone who gets this level of fame, there's been a fair share of controversy swirling around him, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, that's that collision of charisma and controversy that makes him such a compelling case study. I mean, he's clearly brilliant, and he's helped a lot of people engage with science, but
Yeah.
there are also these shadows lurking in the background.
Right. And that's what we're going to do today is unpack all of it. We'll look at his rise to fame, the science behind his claims, and the allegations that have threatened to, derail his career. By the end, you'll have all the information you need to decide for yourself. Is Andrew Huberman a true visionary or just a clever con artist?
Yeah, and it's important to remember our goal here isn't to tell you what to think. We're simply providing a framework for understanding his complex story, leaving you to draw your own conclusions.
Right. So let's start at the beginning. Andrew Huberman, PhD in neuroscience, professor at Stanford, respected researcher in visual systems and neural regeneration. Solid foundation in the world of academia.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, his early work focused on things like how the brain processes visual information and how damaged nerve cells can be regenerated.
I read that he even did some groundbreaking research using virtual reality to stimulate retinal nerve growth.
Yeah, some pretty cutting-edge stuff.
But it wasn't until he stepped outside the ivory tower and into the world of podcasting that he really exploded in popularity.
His appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience during the pandemic seemed to be the catalyst.
It really was.
Suddenly, everyone was talking about this neuroscientist who could explain the science of sleep, stress, and focus in a way that was both engaging and relatable.
Yeah, he became the go-to guy for optimizing your brain, hacking your sleep, basically becoming the best version of yourself. And his science-backed approach, combined with his, down-to-earth communication style, really resonated with a wide audience.
And that's where things start to get interesting because that popularity comes with, both opportunities and challenges.
Right. On the one hand, he's bringing science to the masses, which is fantastic. But on the other hand, there's the potential for oversimplification and even misinformation when you're trying to distill complex topics into easily digestible sound bites.
That's the tightrope walk that any science communicator has to navigate, making the information accessible without sacrificing accuracy or nuance. And it's where some of the criticism of Huberman begins to emerge.
So let's dive into the science a bit. Huberman is known for his deep dives on topics like sleep, stress, visual health. He often provides very specific, actionable advice based on his interpretation of scientific research.
For instance, he's a big proponent of optimizing your sleep environment, establishing regular sleep-wake cycles, avoiding caffeine and alcohol before bed.
Right.
He even goes into detail about different supplements that might aid sleep, though this is one area where some experts have expressed concerns.
Yeah, there's been some debate about whether he overemphasizes the role of supplements while downplaying other lifestyle factors that are just as important, if not more so.
Another example is his work on stress management. He's a strong advocate for techniques like breathing exercises, cold exposure, and even short bursts of intentional stress to regulate the nervous system and build resilience.
He's even popularized the idea of hormesis, which is this concept that exposure to small doses of stress can actually be beneficial for you, which, this idea has gained some traction in the scientific community.
It has.
But it's still a relatively new area of research, and there's a lot we don't know yet.
And that's a crucial point to keep in mind. Just because something sounds scientific doesn't mean it's been definitively proven or that it applies to everyone equally.
Exactly. That's why it's always important to approach any health advice with a critical eye, especially when it comes from someone with a large platform and a charismatic personality. It's easy to get swept up in the enthusiasm and overlook potential red flags or conflicting evidence.
Absolutely. And when we start talking about potential red flags, we inevitably have to address the controversy surrounding Huberman's personal life.
Yeah, this is where things take a bit of a darker turn. In 2024, New York Magazine published an expose detailing allegations of manipulation and infidelity from several women who claimed to have been involved with Huberman.
Yeah, the article paints a picture of someone who is juggling multiple relationships simultaneously, sometimes without being fully transparent with the women involved. One woman even alleged that she contracted HPV while undergoing IVF with Huberman.
Right. And these allegations, if true, raise serious questions about his honesty, responsibility, and whether he was potentially putting others at risk.
Huberman, through his representatives, has denied many of these allegations, but the damage was done. The story sparked a huge public debate about whether we can separate the art from the artist, so to speak.
Right. Can you still admire someone's work if their personal life is messy? Can you trust someone's advice on health and well-being if they're allegedly engaging in behavior that contradicts those values?
These are complex questions with no easy answers, and they cut to the heart of what we're exploring on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's not about passing judgment or condemning anyone. It's about understanding the full picture and then deciding for yourself how much weight you give to the different aspects of someone's story.
So let's pause here for a moment and take stock of where we are. We've seen Huberman's rise to fame, we've explored some of his key scientific claims, and we've touched on the allegations that have tarnished his reputation.
In the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve deeper into the specific praise and criticism that Huberman has received, both for his scientific work and his personal conduct. We'll hear from his supporters and his detractors, and we'll examine the evidence on both sides of the debate.
And ultimately, we'll leave you with the tools you need to answer that central question. Grifter or gifted? Is Andrew Huberman a genuine visionary who's using his platform to make the world a better place? Or is he a clever con artist who's more interested in self-promotion and personal gain?
Stay tuned to find out. Welcome back to Grifter or Gifted. We're continuing our deep dive into the world of Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist who's built a massive following by translating, complex science into actionable advice.
But as we discussed in the first part of this deep dive, Huberman's popularity hasn't come without its fair share of controversy. There were questions about the scientific rigor of some of his claims, as well as serious allegations about his personal conduct.
So to help you navigate this complicated landscape, let's take a closer look at the specific praise and criticism Huberman has received.
Yeah.
We'll start with the positive side.
Okay.
Many people genuinely appreciate Huberman's ability to make complex topics understandable.
Yeah, he's been praised for his clear explanations, his engaging presentation style, and his passion for sharing knowledge.
Yeah, he's undoubtedly helped many people learn about their brains and bodies, and he's inspired countless individuals to take a more proactive approach to their health and well-being.
I mean, there are tons of testimonials from people who credit Huberman's advice with improving their sleep, managing their stress, and even overcoming certain health challenges.
Right.
For many, he's a trusted source of information in a world that can feel overwhelming and confusing.
However, it's important to acknowledge that not everyone shares this positive view. There are also credible voices expressing concern about some aspects of Huberman's work.
One of the main criticisms is that Huberman sometimes oversimplifies complex scientific concepts.
Right. Critics argue that he occasionally cherry-picks research to support his claims, while downplaying or ignoring evidence that contradicts his views.
Yeah.
Science journalist Jonathan Jory, for instance, has called out what he sees as Huberman's tendency to promote a woo-woo version of science. Jory points to Huberman's promotion of certain supplements as an example, arguing that the scientific evidence for their efficacy is often weak or inconclusive.
Okay, another area of concern is Huberman's stance on certain public health measures like fluoridation and the flu vaccine.
Right.
He's expressed skepticism towards these practices, which has drawn criticism from public health experts who point to the overwhelming evidence supporting their safety and effectiveness.
And these experts argue that while questioning established practices is sometimes warranted, it's crucial to base that skepticism on solid evidence and a thorough understanding of the potential risks and benefits. They worry that Huberman's large platform could lead some people to make decisions that are detrimental to their own health or the health of their communities.
And of course, there's no escaping the shadow cast by the allegations of manipulation and infidelity. These accusations have undoubtedly tarnished Huberman's reputation for some, and they raise questions about his integrity and trustworthiness.
It's important to reiterate that these allegations haven't been proven in a court of law.
Right.
Huberman has denied many of them, and his supporters argue that they should be viewed with skepticism until more evidence emerges.
But the mere existence of these allegations has created a rift in public perception.
Absolutely.
Some of Huberman's fans have steadfastly defended him, dismissing the accusations as a smear campaign or a product of cancel culture.
Right. Others have expressed disappointment and disillusionment, feeling that Huberman's alleged actions contradict the values of honesty and responsibility that he espouses in his work.
Yeah.
This situation has sparked a broader conversation about the role of personal conduct in evaluating someone's professional work. Can we or should we separate the art from the artist, so to speak?
It's a complex question with no easy answers.
It really is. Some people believe that character is paramount and that someone who engages in unethical behavior in their personal life can't be trusted to provide sound advice in their professional life.
Right. Others argue that it's possible to compartmentalize these aspects of a person's life, acknowledging their flaws while still appreciating their contributions.
Ultimately, how you weigh these factors is a personal decision. There's no right or wrong answer, and each individual has to decide what level of importance they place on personal integrity when evaluating someone's work.
So as you continue to grapple with the question of whether Andrew Huberman is a grifter or gifted, remember that the answer is likely to be nuanced and complex.
He's clearly a brilliant and charismatic individual who's made a significant impact on the world of science communication.
But he's also someone who's been accused of oversimplifying science, promoting questionable health advice, and engaging in unethical personal behavior.
It's up to each listener to weigh these competing narratives and decide for themselves where they land on the spectrum of grifter to gifted.
Welcome back to Grifter Gifted. We've been deep diving into the world of Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist who's kind of straddling this line between scientific authority and influencer culture.
We've seen the glowing praise for his ability to, make science accessible. And we've heard the concerns about his potential oversimplifications and, of course, the allegations about his personal life.
So where do we go from here? How do we reconcile these seemingly contradictory aspects of Huberman's persona?
It's tempting to try to categorize him neatly as either a hero or a villain, a visionary leader or a manipulative charlatan, but the reality is far more nuanced than that.
Exactly, and that's what makes this case so fascinating, right? It forces us to grapple with the complexities of human nature, the allure of charisma, and the challenge of discerning truth in a world that's just saturated with information and opinions.
One of the most important takeaways from this deep dive, I think, is the need for critical thinking. We can't simply accept everything we hear from someone, even if they have, impressive credentials or a captivating personality.
Right, we have to be willing to question assumptions, evaluate evidence, and seek out diverse perspectives. And we have to be aware of our own biases, recognizing that we might be more inclined to believe someone who confirms our existing beliefs or who tells us what we want to hear.
Another key takeaway is the importance of recognizing the power dynamics at play. Huberman has a massive platform and a devoted following. That level of influence comes with a responsibility to be accurate, to be transparent, and to be ethical.
His supporters argue that he's fulfilling that responsibility, that he's genuinely trying to help people, and that his intentions are good.
His critics, of course, counter that he's using his platform for personal gain.
Yeah.
That he's prioritizing self-promotion over scientific rigor, and that he's potentially harming people with his advice.
And it's up to each listener to decide where they stand on this spectrum. There's no right or wrong answer. And it's perfectly valid to hold both admiration and skepticism towards Huberman.
Ultimately, the most important thing is to engage with this information thoughtfully and to make informed decisions about who you trust and what information you choose to believe.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Andrew Huberman, we want to leave you with a few final thoughts to ponder.
How do we balance the desire for simplified explanations with the need for scientific accuracy?
How much weight should we give to someone's personal conduct when evaluating their professional work?
And in a world where charisma and controversy collide, how can we tell a visionary from a con artist?
These are questions that will continue to resonate as we navigate this ever-evolving landscape of information and influence. Keep those critical thinking skills sharp. And remember, it's always okay to question, to doubt, and to seek out multiple perspectives.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed.